Welcome everybody to the next edition of Newrez Voices. Today I'm super excited to have our newest senior leader with Newrez, Brian Woodring, which is really exciting. He's our Chief Information Officer, and it's something that I think everybody's interested in what's going on with the world of IT and how we're advancing as an organization. So to add a talent, a leader like Brian is, exciting on its face, really something that we're anxious to dive into today on some of the specifics of where that's going and how Brian came to be. So first of all, Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to get a chance to talk to the team about all the things we're doing in technology.
Yeah. Awesome. So look, when we were chatting about this in advance, I was telling part of this is just for our team members to better understand opportunities within Newrez and how leaders came to be. So, Chief Information Officer, there's so much that's going on in the industry. When I look back over the last, 20, 30 years of the career, how much things have changed. So can you tell us a little bit about your career path? How do you go from, wherever you started to being the chief information officer of a publicly traded company that, for everything that goes with that? How do you acquire that
Yeah.
skill set and perspective?
Well, Dave, I was always drawn to technology even as a kid. So I remember being, my mom went back to business school when I was a kid and she started playing with early computers, using them for classes. This is like the 1980s. And I just really fell in love with all the possibilities. And I'm still a technology optimist. I think technology can really change people's lives for the better. For me, there was never really a question what field I was going to work in. I started programming in high school for my high school job. And then as soon as I got out of high school, I started working as a software engineer. And I've been doing it for 30 years ever since. Spent the last 20 now in the mortgage business, which I just find fascinating, right? There's so many opportunities from a home ownership standpoint for us to make a difference for millions of people. I mean, we have millions of customers. And I find that just incredibly exciting. So for me, this is like a dream job to be here now.
Yeah. And there's so many aspects to technology. I mean, you talked about the coding side of it, but there's the,
Mhm.
UX and there's
Oh, yeah.
process design and robotics and all these things that go into it. So is there like when you're trying to become a CIO, or if somebody's sitting there going, I want that job someday, like how do you get yourself perspective into all these different things
Well, first, I'd say be careful what you wish for. But
yeah.
secondly, I would say it's really important to do a lot of the different jobs. One of the things that I'm so grateful for is early in my career, I had the opportunity to do other jobs outside of just programming. I did CAD, computer aided design, doing like mechanical drawings. I did traditional IT help desk type work, setting up computers, setting up PCs and server room work. So I was really lucky to work for a lot of smaller companies where I had a chance to wear a lot of different hats. And I think that has served me so well, even though I haven't done those jobs to the level where I'm as good as the best people in those fields. It still gives me empathy and an understanding of what they're going through every day. Like I know how tough it is to be working the help desk. I know how tough it is to be setting up hundreds of PCs every time we hire people. So that's really hard work. And if I hadn't done it, I might not understand just how challenging some of those things are.
That's right. Yeah, I think that holds even, for myself outside
Yep.
of technology. And we've talked about it on some of the prior editions with other leaders and people who have been in the business for a long time. It's part of the beauty of the mortgage industry. There are so many facets and so many different things you can dive into. And then also just the idea of giving yourself that opportunity to try a lot of different things. And even if it's not your thing, if you will, that you want to go a mile deep in, there's something really powerful about how you can then collaborate with other team members when you have a little bit of experience of being in their shoes and how difficult and some of the kind of choices that people have to make in that. So that makes a lot of
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
helps you connect all the dots, right? I mean, there's always a bigger thing going on in any company that's outside of, whatever you're specifically working on. And I found the best senior leaders have a vision for that. They've been able to see so much of the overall what's happening in the company.
Right. Exactly. So, to that point of seeing different things in the company and different options, one of the things that having been at a few different companies as well, and there's a real philosophy, and there's nothing right or wrong per se about it, about build versus buy. And you see some companies that go out and they partner with a lot of vendors, and they have, a tech stack, if you will, just all these different things that they build up to support their customers and their team. And then other companies that focus on building it, they're coding it, they have proprietary systems, and there's probably a little bit of both in a lot of companies. And when I think about Newrez, I think about, two big build pieces that we have, that being H2O on the origination side, and then servicing director for our team members over there, and then lots of things around that. So anyway, all that's just a preamble for what's your view on that, and how do you see that going forward with Newrez?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, right, because everybody ends up, to your point, in kind of a hybrid of building and buying today. I don't think any large company is not going to have some of both. And so there isn't one right or wrong. It's not we're all build, we're all buy. The reality is we'll make case by case decisions, but there are guideposts for us. For me, the two big things I think about when I look at should we build our own custom version of this software or should we buy something from a commercial vendor? The two big things I look at is one, do we want to be different, right? Is this an area we want to have something that nobody else has? And keep in mind, there's lots of areas you don't want to have something different. We wouldn't want to go write our own version of Workday or write our own version of Salesforce, for example. Those are huge software platforms that cost billions of dollars literally to build. Right? But there are areas we want to have something really unique. Maybe our customer experience, for example. That may be an area we feel like, look, we want to have something that no one else has, the best experience that a customer can have, or maybe the tools for our sales teams. We decide, hey, we want to do things differently than everyone else, and we need the technology that supports that. On the other hand, the flip side to that is there are areas you definitely don't want to have something different from a compliance and regulatory and legal standpoint. There's often a lot of safety in numbers that comes with using an industry standard platform that everyone else is using too. So I try to figure out where can we be different in a way that gives us some advantage and helps us win market share and actually grow our business, and where do we just need something good and we can kind of check the box and buy something off the shelf. That's at least how I think about it.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And you mentioned in their Salesforce, which we've made a lot of investment across the company, different channels having kind of different flavors of how they use it. So I would love to get your perspective then on Salesforce as a specific kind of vendor partner of ours, and how we're thinking about, these different verticals that have it, and ultimately the plan to bring them together. And I've heard people refer to it as a single pane of glass, which I like that. It's like one view into our customers and the history of them and how we interact with them. So where do you view, coming in now and seeing where we are today and that path forward?
Yeah. So, to your point, Salesforce is an incredibly powerful platform. It's probably the single leading technology platform in modern business today. I would say it's very normal. The path we've gone on is very common, which is it was adopted kind of locally to solve specific problems. And that's good, right? I actually think that's the only way it gets out there. If you try to roll out Salesforce all at once to everybody at the exact same time in the exact same way, what you're going to find is it doesn't actually fix any problem. So individual business areas really adopted Salesforce in a way that solved their specific problems, right? Whether that's customer service or sales or marketing, right? But now there's an opportunity for us to get to that single pane of glass. And like I literally imagine like the heads up display on a cockpit of a plane, right? Everybody in our company who deals with our customers, whether it's sales, service, marketing, anything, should have one view of our customer, in my opinion, right? That has everything about their history from originating a loan to their servicing to any complaints they've had along the way, so that they can give the best service possible, right? I think about like, does the left hand really know what the right hand's doing? Does a person in servicing understand that maybe this person's already in the middle of an application to refi, or vice versa? Maybe a salesperson's calling them for a refi. Do they know they've got complaints on the servicing end? I want to equip all of our people with a tool so they have that sort of perfect knowledge of what's going on with a customer so that we can give the customer the best experience possible.
That's right. I mean, I think it's so powerful. We see it in so many of our customer surveys that, people want to deal with one person.
They do.
They want to feel that way at least. And,
Because
to the
people
extent
trust
that we
people,
can,
right?
that's right. And so, to the extent that you feel like you're not getting handed around or starting over every time you call Newrez, that's really powerful. So I think, to your point, that is the the biggest thing I think that we can all wrap our heads around why Salesforce is so important and why the long-term vision of bringing it together, because it's going to make us so much more relevant to our customers when they call in and we can talk about, hey, I see you talk to Jim last week over in servicing, everything going well for you there. You got this marketing piece. Any interest in that? I mean, it makes it one thing where it really does feel like you're dealing with your local friend or service person.
Absolutely. We're one Newrez, and they should be able to act. We should be able to act like it. I think the first step, to your point, was getting everyone in Salesforce. Now, the next step is starting to connect those towers of knowledge that we've created, right? We have all these silos, and we need to connect them up so that we get to that single pane.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is there a next step for us in doing that, or are we still in kind of a phase where you see it like kind of the local thing where, hey, we're all kind of optimizing what we've got and it'll all come together naturally over time? Not naturally, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. No, I mean,
databases start
it'll
to
take some
blend.
work. No, look, I think there are still a lot of work to be done within those local areas, right, to make them more effective and more powerful. But we are starting the strategy of looking across and how do we connect all of this data? That's really what it comes down to, is how do you give access to anyone who's using Salesforce, give access to any of the data about a customer that they need to do their job. So there's a lot of data work we have to do under the hood to connect these instances together, because there's still going to be Salesforce for customer service, for servicing, right? There's still going to be Salesforce for sales professionals. We're not saying there has to be one size fits all. We just want to give the visibility.
Yeah, and kind of build your own, if you will, to help you do your job fast,
Exactly.
but you've got the access. Yeah. Which
Exactly.
which brings me to my next thing. I mean, Salesforce, giant database of information. How do you use the information in a way that, creates a better experience for customers, makes us more efficient, et cetera? And I think a big part of that going forward is AI, which is kind of the talk of all industries of the world right now in a lot of ways. And I've talked about it with our team for a few years now, not in AI terms, but I think that's the ultimate culmination is next best conversation, like looking at all the data and giving us a
Mhm.
great reason to reach out to that customer that we may have never understood in the past of, hey, they went to the website and they did this, and based on these other factors, this is a great conversation for us to have with our customers. So,
Yep.
I mean, there's a million things that are going on with that. So, all of that is a tee up for you of kind of what is going on with our AI strategy at Newrez. What are you excited about? What's the team working on?
I was really happy to see how far along we were with some of these AI projects. There's a lot of our competitors out there who are taking a very passive or even defensive approach to AI. And certainly there's a lot that we have to be defensive about, but the power of AI and what it can give us and how it can empower our team members is undeniable. And it's something we need to lean into. So you mentioned a really great example of, looking at all of the opportunities. We have so many opportunities as a company with customers. And how do we evaluate those opportunities or leads or whatever you want to call them? Right? How do we evaluate those? How do we figure out who, when, where we should contact them, what we should say? That is impossible for any one human being to do, right? You could hire an entire army of people to just do nothing but look at leads and opportunities every day and route them, and you still wouldn't be able to get to everything. But that's a very powerful capability. I think about things like real-time feedback, right? We have so many calls, emails, chats with customers, and we're getting so many signals and information, and are we capturing all of that? A lot of this comes down to how do we leverage all of this incredible data that we have about our customers, that we have both transactionally through doing mortgages with them or servicing their loan for years, but also real time, right? We just got an email from a customer. We just had a call with a customer. What should we now be doing with that? Is that a real hot lead that we should be immediately taking action on and getting to a really high skill loan officer? Or is that, hey, maybe they're interested and we need to nurture them, right? Sending them material and things like that to kind of keep them warm while they go through their journey. And that may be based on things they said. That may be based on how they said what they said, right? Things like sentiment analysis, where you can listen to a call and actually kind of tell the emotional state of mind of the person you're talking to, and then automatically route, okay, look, this person's pretty upset. They should get escalated service now. Or this person's really eager. They seem impatient. They want to go and transact. Let's get them someone who can close a deal with them right now. So those are the types of things I think we can do at scale across thousands and thousands of opportunities that would have been impossible to do with just, human analysis. So I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to kind of superpower almost all of our team members over the years with things like Copilot. It just takes time to roll it out and do it in a way that's safe and responsible.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the coaching. That's the thing that I think that as of today, things change so fast, and there's something new I'm excited about tomorrow. But right now, the whole idea of coaching, I think, is so awesome, real-time coaching, because I think, I hope most people have an experience in their career where somebody gave them real-time coaching, and it's so powerful. But unfortunately, it's been limited historically by just human capacity. You can only have so many
Exactly.
people standing over your shoulder listening and giving coaching. This is
Yeah,
an
I mean, who's going to listen to
opportunity.
hundreds of calls
Right.
simultaneously, right? That's not possible, but now it is.
And now you can get kind of that, hey, you just finished a call, and this system to tell you, hey, when you said this, you could have said this or whatever. It's like, okay, great, I'm better on the next call. You get 1% better every day, and you win. And I just see there's so many opportunities to do that.
Well, when you can run that kind of AI across all of our contacts with all of our customers, we can learn pretty quickly what words tend to be most successful, what tone tends to be most successful, what's the best way to respond to this kind of objection. It's one thing for someone's personal experience, but we can look at hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of calls or contacts and actually see this is what wins. So, this is the secret weapon to unlocking this kind of objection. And that's what I'm so eager to learn, right? Like I want to learn these things and I want the tools to teach our team members.
Yep, exactly. It's awesome. So, you mentioned Copilot. That's our
Mhm.
partner that's embedded within our ecosystem, within Outlook and Teams and whatnot. And so, I've been starting to work with that a little bit to try to figure out for myself, what works, how can I use this to make it better personally, which I think is important. There's lots of enterprise-wide systems that are going to do great things for us, and you and the team are working on those. At the same time, I think every individual has the opportunity to make their own life better, whether it's personally or professionally right now. And I think there's a lot of people who are, cutting edge, and maybe it's starting to be more widespread adopted of using Chat
Mhm.
GPT, or there's just so many other tools that are out there. So all of that is to say, what are you doing, Brian? I mean, you're somebody who's obviously, on the forefront of a lot of things in technology. So you've probably been playing with this for a while. So what are some of the things you might share with team members or others who are listening here that you found to make Copilot help you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, just one quick comment. You're spot on about why we rolled out Microsoft Copilot, because we don't know all of the things right now that AI can help people with. So we wanted to roll out a tool that everyone could have access to, or a large number of our team members can have access to, that really allows them to figure out where the value is and hopefully communicate it upline. Like when you learn something, teach other
Right.
people as well. But for me personally, the two scenarios I really have come to depend on over the last couple of years. One is meeting summarization. I try to have as many of the meetings I go to recorded and automatically summarized. If you're anything like me, you have a lot of meetings, and I know a lot of our team members do. And a week later, trying to remember what people talked about in that meeting is almost impossible, or who was on it. What did we talk about? What was the tone of the meeting? And I found that the Copilot meeting summaries are so much better. Like they're about as good as getting a person to do it. And it's kind of remarkable. It's just something you kind of get for free. And then the second one that is really exciting to me, I get a lot of spreadsheets and data and PowerPoints sent to me. And I use things like Copilot to summarize a lot of the content. So rather than trying to create new stuff, just ingesting all of the information that's sent to you every day. Someone sends you a big spreadsheet with tons of data in it, and you want to understand, okay, well, what's the trend? What's the big idea? It's not a substitute for looking at it personally, but it's a great way to take that quick summary glance and like, okay, what's the big idea here so that then I can dig deeper. I find that extremely useful. If you've got a lot of incoming data coming at you, just using it as like I use it as like a co-pilot, a person who's there helping me to just process everything coming at me and understand what's going on and what I should be focused on. So yeah, I've been using it a couple of years and I find it indispensable now.
Yeah, and I think, I was on a panel yesterday with some folks talking about AI and what it's helping us do, and specifically from a sales perspective. And, I'm a big note taker. I always have been. And I think that's a good thing on the whole. At the same time, you know, it's a fact that you can't really multitask. When you're doing one thing, you're not paying attention to something else. And so, having that ability to have Copilot take notes or a tool take notes allows you to
Mhm.
really be fully engaged with the other person. So if you're a salesperson and you can really listen to somebody genuinely and understand what they're saying and know, I don't have to take notes on this. All that's being done. I'm going to get that
Exactly.
afterwards. And then the ability then to immediately, as you said, have that boiled down to something that then I can share back to that person and edit it. Of course, it's not just going to be, take the notes that AI gave, but edit it and send it back. That means something to people to know they were heard and genuinely kind of you were connected. So I think again, people talk about being afraid of AI. I'm not afraid of it. I mean, I think it's gonna there's certainly danger in anything in life, but I really think it does open up a lot of opportunity for us to connect in deeper, better ways.
AI will be as good or bad as we want it to be and as we use it for. For me, it allows me to focus on what people are good at, right? And people are good at being present and empathizing and listening and helping, right? And it allows the computer to focus on what computers are good at, which is recording data, processing data. If you're doing that yourself, to your point, you're not going to be as present in an interaction, right? Like if I were sitting here taking notes of every question you asked me, I wouldn't be here with you. And so
Right.
there's, that takes away that need to have that multitasking and really lets you just be present in the moment.
Yep. Agreed. We've had the opportunity to work together for years in the past at another enterprise. And so, you know, I think you and I have a feel for what good partnership looks like. And maybe you could share some of the things that you've learned over the years as what good business partnership looks like with IT. What are the pitfalls that people need to look out for as they're doing that?
Absolutely. And look, I think most of these are going to be things that will help in any partnership that you have in your life. To me, partnerships are built on transparency and trust. That's really what it comes down to, right? Is everyone just putting their cards on the table and do people trust each other and they trust each other's intentions? So being a trustworthy partner, right? And that doesn't always mean, this is the key part, it does not always mean being nice. It doesn't always mean saying that everything technology builds is great. That's not good partnership. Good partnership is actually investing in us as a technology team. I often say, like, thank you for the feedback because that's an investment in who we are. You're building us up. So that means sometimes being critical, but for the benefit of the person receiving it. I always say the difference between feedback and commentary is feedback's for the benefit of the person getting it, and commentary is just, criticism and things like that.
Right.
So another big one I would say that really resonates with me is, technology is filled with people who are professional problem solvers. That's what they love more than anything else in the world is to design a solution to solve a problem, right? So bring us your problems, right? So a lot of times people will come to us and they'll say, just move the button here, or we just need to buy this thing. And it's like, well, let's start with what's the problem, right? Let's go
Yeah.
through in depth. What problem are you having? Because to your point, we may have already built the solution. We have so much technology here and so many different people who are working on amazing things. If you bring a problem, odds are someone else has that same problem, and we're going to find a solution that solves two problems instead of just one. So that's the biggest thing I would say, trust and transparency, and then just bring us problems. Don't skip to the solution, and let us be part of helping you design the solution to your problem.
Yeah. And I think, that goes with that. And, look, I try to challenge myself on that too. It's just specificity, like be
Yeah,
clear
yeah,
in the problem, as you say, or where
exactly.
it's happening, how it's manifesting itself. That these are all things that you need if you're a problem solver, as the IT team is, as you said, like you got to understand the problem at a deeper level than just kind of this surface one
Yeah.
sentence thing.
And then be prepared to partner, right? Be prepared to literally work together to design the right solution to that problem that's gonna solve it for years, not just put a band-aid on it.
That's right. All right. So like I mentioned, you and I have worked together in the past. So
Mhm.
when I was informed that you were come to join our team, I was just ecstatic, super excited because I know the professionalism, the enthusiasm, the passion, all the things that you bring for us. So you and I haven't had this conversation. So I'm curious to hear, what is it about Newrez? What is it about all the opportunities that I'm sure were out there on the horizon for you? What clicked for you to say, this is the place I want to be?
Yeah, this is well, A, To be totally honest with you, was mostly the people, right? So people like you being here, not trying to butter you up here, but just saying, like people, like the good people here when I first met, there's just so many people I've met through the process that was through the interview process, but then my first few weeks here who've just been amazing and incredibly welcoming, right? This is such a down to earth company. Egos are low. The desire to just be a team and play your position and get, win the game, like that's very high here. It's a very competitive company, which I love. Very ambitious. But really, it's as simple as this. For me, I'm a technologist and I care about the mortgage industry because I believe home ownership is so critical to our country and it can be done so much better. And this Newrez is really the intersection of those two things. This is a legitimate technology powered company that has the opportunity to change what homeownership looks like in the United States. And to me, that's just an awesome opportunity. Even if I didn't know anyone here, and even if I was just coming in blind, that's still that same kind of opportunity to do something big and make a meaningful impact in the world is really important to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about everything you said, but certainly the people and like you said, the competitiveness. I mean, that's what, I really do get fired up every morning about the fact that there is just a tangible desire to win in whatever we're doing. And there's so much opportunity. I mean, there's everywhere you look, and I'm sure every company feels this way. There's just opportunity everywhere to get better if you're honest with yourself about, personally and for your company. And so I think there's a real honest awareness of that here of, hey, we can do this better. We can be better, and we're bringing in great people to support that, and we're developing the people that we have.
Yep, I agree. And that excites me every day when I think about all of the things, like as good as we are, and we're very good today, but we can be so much better. And when we do, it's going to be amazing, right? Like we're going
Yeah.
to take over the world and I can't wait.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. So, you've been a leader for a long time.
Mhm.
And I'm always curious, I mean, I think we all change over time. I mean, if we're learning, we're changing and getting better. And so, broad kind of question here, but when you think about being a leader and the things that you've learned over time and the experiences that you've had, is there anything that stands out as being something that you've changed as a leader because of an experience or somebody said something, whatever, where it profoundly kind of changed you as a leader?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was a younger leader, newer to leadership, my style was extremely impatient and everything had to be done now. And I pushed hard on everything and I pushed people too hard. And I did. I know there was a lot of fallout from that. We got a lot done, but the human cost was not something I was comfortable with. And I started to learn actually as I became a little bit more forgiving of people and a little more accepting and a little more patient. What I actually learned is that patience is an incredible virtue, that so many problems are not real problems and you're not going to care about them 2 days from now. And you don't have to be hair on fire about them today. And actually, when you do get a little patient, you start to see the difference between the urgent and the important.
Yes.
And when you're in a very impatient mindset and reactive mindset, you're always doing something urgent. It has to be done today. It's the most important thing. And then when you look at it, you look back and you're like, 3 days later, I forgot I even did that. Right. Like, I don't even remember what I was like. It seemed like the most important thing in the world then, but it didn't turn out to be. For me, patience really taught me that there are some things that they're going to be problems for years if you don't solve them. And those are the ones you really need to put your time into because those are the ones that are investment in your own future. And so that helped me a lot. And it also helped me to understand that, at the end of the day, it's all humans doing this work. And you need to care about the human being, not just about the outcome.
That's right. Yeah, I think, I had a similar kind of experience where, my desire to win, as well placed as it may be for a team, impatience, if it doesn't take into account, or the urgency, if it doesn't take into account the people, what's the point? You've got to, if you're playing the long game, you want to develop good people. You want to understand the difference between kind of, urgency and impatience, as you say, and be able to articulate that to people. If it is urgent, well, then better be able to articulate that to somebody of why this matters so much, and not just
Mhm.
because somebody's, somewhere is stomping their feet about it. And so, yeah,
Exactly.
that's where I think you really, you learn as a leader to see that more clearly and to be able to share that with people. And candidly, to be able to accept if somebody says you're wrong, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal or whatever, and
Yep.
say, you know what, you're right.
So what I've learned then is that winning isn't just about getting the outcome, though it still is. I mean, every day still a competitive guy and I still want to win every day, but it's about winning and it's also about helping all of our team members be the best version of themselves. And that also means really caring about the people too.
Yep, absolutely. So as it relates to leadership, you know,
Mhm.
who is the best leader? And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to name that person necessarily, but is there somebody that stands out to you as being the best leader that you've worked with? And maybe you could share, why that is, the impact that they made, or something about their style that we could learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll focus on folks, maybe two people in my career who led me personally and I learned the most from. One was an early career leader who was a technology manager for one of the very first companies I worked for. And he just taught me how to handle yourself, how to treat people with respect, how to lead with kindness. He was much more patient than I was. And I learned a lot from him. And I learned that it's not just about doing the job, it's about doing it the right way. And I learned so much about how I carry myself even today as a technology leader. And then I think about a later career leader, a guy you and I both know who was a leader at a previous company. And what he taught me, he was not a technologist, but he is an intensely curious human being. And I learned so much about the business from him. I learned so much about how to lead a level up and think about the bigger problem. He used to challenge me all the time. You're thinking too small. You're thinking too small. What's the big idea here? And it really changed the way I think strategically because he had this incredible vision of an entire company. He had a unique mind that could see the entire board at once. And he really taught me to have that vision and to understand that everything I'm doing is part of a bigger narrative that's going on, part of a bigger trend or story that's happening in the company. And so those are, I think, the two leaders that taught me very different things, but both very important things.
Yeah. And the who you mentioned, had that
Mhm.
that ability, like you say, to see the whole board, and at the
Yeah.
same time to articulate why the littlest things mattered.
Yes.
Why it does matter
Yeah,
what you
he could map
say.
from one specific thing like this calculation is wrong and here's how it gets us into regulatory trouble and here's how it affects our reputation. He could see all of that and he taught me, but I don't think that's necessarily a gift. It's a skill that you can build. And he taught me how to build that skill by not just looking at what was directly in front of me, but by thinking about the big picture.
Yeah, I think that you're exactly right about it being something to learn, because I know that I am better for having worked for him because I was able to absorb at
Mm.
least some of it, and
Same.
build those muscles. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. That's awesome. All right. So, hey, Brian, you're talking about a lot of the things that Newrez is developing and the opportunities that are out there for us as an industry and as a company. Is there anything that stands out to you as like first order development that you or the team are focused on right now?
Yeah, I think what we're really focused on is building better tools to automate as much of the sort of manual labor. Sometimes you'll hear me refer to it as digital paperwork, where we got rid of the paper, but we didn't really get rid of the paperwork. We just moved it to a computer. In any mortgage company, there's so much of that, right? Think about the whole underwriting process or the loan application process or result loss mitigation, for example. They're just filled with these very dense processes and so much of that just comes down to manually checking boxes and looking at documents. And we're really focused on how do we automate as much of that as possible. I'm a big believer in letting computers do what computers do well so that people can do what people can do well. I want to automate as much of that paperwork as we possibly can so that people can focus on listening, empathizing, caring about our customers. And I just see so much opportunity here for that because the mortgage industry, there's so much paperwork, so many documents coming in. I think there's a huge opportunity for us to automate more of the document work. So that's a mix of AI and digital experiences, our mobile app, our portals. to really allow customers to self-serve or automate as much of that as we can to let our people really focus on the most important things.
Yeah. And you mentioned underwriting. I mean, that's something that's close to my
Mhm.
heart because I feel like we've been talking about AI in different ways. I mean, there's rules-based engines, now it's AI, but where do you kind of realistically see underwriting in AI over the next 3 to 5 years? Do you think it's, gonna kind of really happen? Like AI will actually be able to underwrite files the way people do, or do you think it'll just set it up for a faster review of a human? Like, where do you really see that going?
Dave, my perspective is whether it can or not, I don't think from a regulatory or a professional responsibility standpoint, any of us would be comfortable with an AI making the ultimate underwriting decision. I don't, that's not something I am interested in. I think it's too risky. And ultimately, we need to be able to explain to a customer if we're going to deny them, for example, we need to be able to explain why, and it needs to be very clear cut. So, where I do think, however, is that underwriting is filled with work that isn't actually underwriting. It's really chasing documents and extracting data off those documents and just running rules that are basically formulas in a spreadsheet or in a system. And one of my goals is to get rid of that work. And when I say get rid of it, I mean really automate it. Teach a computer how to look at an image and say, was there any damage in that picture of an appraisal? And does the description in the appraisal match the picture? That's not making the decision. That's not really underwriting the loan. That's just paperwork that has to be done today that I want to automate away as much as possible and leave the actual judgment call and the decision to qualified experts.
Yeah. I love that. I said yesterday on this panel that I was on, and we were talking about AI and where it might go. And roughly that's kind of what I was saying as far as like the underwriter that, AI maybe will be able to do a lot of the heavy lifting, but you're still going to want someone to look at it. And more importantly, to talk to the customer, to talk to our broker partner about that decision, because that's what we see in surveys and whatnot, is that
It's
people want time with underwriters to better understand what, why can't I qualify, or what do I have to do in a way that I think humans can uniquely deliver versus like bullet points on a spreadsheet or bullet points in an email. So if AI allows underwriters to do more of that, that's a massive win for everybody.
I completely agree. I mean, these are the experts. They're the most knowledgeable people in the industry about whether someone's going to be able to qualify for a loan or not. People trust people and they want to talk to people who they believe know what they're doing and have expertise. And we can free up so much time that currently underwriters are spending doing paperwork so that they can actually do those things.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So we talked about growth, and we're both excited about the growth at Newrez and the opportunity to add talented new people. So on the IT team, you're going to be adding, you probably have tons of requisitions out right now. But
Mhm.
when you're talking to somebody to join a team, I guess at a broad level, what are you looking for? Like, what are the things that stand out to you?
Well, the two non-negotiables for me are always integrity and effort, right? Anything else can be taught. I'm a firm believer. Technology is for everyone. It's not magic. I've met many of the most successful technologists I know came from non-traditional career paths. They came from other careers. They came from finance, or they came from, I once knew an awesome engineering manager who'd been a journalist. He wrote for a newspaper before he wrote code, right? So it's not necessarily, hey, you have to have this specific background. To me, the two big things, you have to be comfortable being challenged and you have to be transparent and of the highest integrity, right? And that means being willing to admit when you're wrong. That means being willing to acknowledge when you failed, even when it's, especially when it's really tough to do. And then the second is effort. I was just actually talking to the team about this yesterday. Like in the business we're in, the margins are so small between success and failure. Whether we win a loan or a competitor wins a loan, whether one of our customers is happy or whether they're upset because of a few, one more day of time it took us to solve their problem. The margins are small and effort makes the difference. Being willing to be more responsive, being willing to get to answers faster, being willing to deliver value more quickly is the difference between winning and losing. So I look for people who have a really high motor and want to work and are really passionate about technology. And then I look for people who I just would trust, right? Would I trust them personally? Great, then I want to work with them. If I wouldn't trust them personally, that's not someone I want to work with.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. I mean, I think that's something we should all we can all incorporate if you haven't already, of just kind of that rubric of how you think about speaking with people. Because I think we say that a lot in the mortgage industry, and it sounds like it applies generally in IT as well. That it's really not rocket science. It's people can learn lots of different things. The heart of the matter is, do you have the fire to want to learn it, and can you work within a team in a way that's productive, and helps us all be better?
Because to your point, the people who are passionate, they'll learn. They'll learn whatever they need to learn to get the job done. That's not the part I worry about. I worry about their character as a human first.
So, all right, Brian. So we're at the end. Anything that you feel like we didn't cover, or that you'd want to share with our team members here?
No, look, I'm glad I survived the Shark Tank here. It's been awesome being on this. Dave, I've always loved working with you, and these questions were exactly what I'd expect you to want to talk about. You're one of the most curious people I've ever worked with, and I know you always want to get into all aspects of the business. So, no, I've enjoyed this a lot. I'm very excited to be here at Newrez. We're going to build the best technology for everyone, but especially our sales professionals who are the heartbeat of the company every day. And so we're going to build the best technology we can, and we want to hear your feedback. So, if you're listening to this and you want to reach out to me directly over Teams, I'm always interested to hear what's going well and what's not. So thank you for the opportunity, Dave.
That's awesome. Thank you, and welcome aboard. All right, everybody. Until next time. See you then. Bye bye.